Myself and my brother Rob, we're going to go down to our smoking fire. We're going to smoke ourselves. I'm not going to smoke anyone here. This is not my traditional country, as far as I know. But I am going to smoke myself. And I invite you to cleanse yourself of anything bad you might be bringing with you. That's what this is about. It's also about showing respect to those people and showing respect to that country. And that country, and the scent of that country wafting over you and being on you. It's about also being protected while you're on country and asking for the protection of the spirits of that place. I don't profess to know everything. I am not an expert in any field, but I'll be happy to share what I know. And so today is about that as well. Not just listening to me bang on about stuff, but having a chance to share your knowledge if you're open to it. Because today's a learning experience. In the circle, there's no bosses here today. No one's in charge, not even me, not Tassin, not any bosses that might be here along with you, for your work colleagues. They don't exist in this circle.
The 2nd of October 2019, this entire valley next door to us and our property was all heritage listed, which is probably the best protection we can get. So, thank you to everybody who fought all the way through with us. But now our responsibility, that was the line in the sand. Up until that point, we were fighting to protect this place against the actions of humans, of people. Now that we've got that line in the sand, now what we're doing is we're fighting and working to protect this place from the travails of nature that are the products of what we humans have been doing ever since Europeans arrived here and started overprotecting country on a level of ignorance and not understanding the science that has been the outcome of thousands and thousands of years of Aboriginal people living on this land, understanding this land, changing this land to what it is now. There are so many different things that we can learn from that ancient science. And it is science, it's not some kind of mysticism, ancient religion. And it's also not just history, it's contemporary, it's current, it's relevant. And I think when the fires came through in 2019 and 2020, I think we started to all realize that Aboriginal science is as relevant today and in the future as it ever has been, in fact more so.
Well, first of all, my name is Den Barber, Dennis Barber more formally, but Den to my friends. I'm the founding director of Koori Country Cultural Fire, which is a name change from the Koori Country Fire Sticks, but I'll explain that a little bit later on. And the Aboriginal Corporation and Yarrabin Cultural Connections Proprietary Limited, which is my current cultural business. I'm a descendant of the traditional Aboriginal custodians from Mudgee, Wiradjuri country. First of all, I do acknowledge the traditional knowledge revival pathways that happened back in 2010 when Oliver Costello, who was with the Jumbana unit at UTS, sent out the flyer and came across my desk as a co-managing officer up in Blue Mountains. And it was an opportunity for me to wave that in front of my boss's face and say, hey, we've got some funding, can we take some people up to Cape York? And it was held at the Besant Homestead or Besant Fire Management Workshop in 2010. And I must say that it had a profound effect on me that week, and what I learnt, the amount of knowledge that was handed over in that week-long event. And there is a picture of the New South Wales delegates that went up there at the time, and Uncle TG sitting up front, who was the man who took us out into the bush, into the grassland, handed us all a box of matches, ushered us out, and gave us a signal to use one match. And that's what we did. And we watched those circles of fire do their magic, and that was the magic moment for me. It was ingrained in me about, hang on, where's the fire trucks? Where's the PPE? Where's the helicopters? None of that to be seen. There were babies on hips of mothers there were fellas walking around without shoes on. There was, it was unlike any other fire event that I'd been to. And even for me to strike that match and put it into the grass was a bit challenging, because I'm going, where's the containment here? Where's this fire going to go? We went back to that old man, we watched the fire do its thing, we saw the birds start to interact with the fire, pecking off all the grasshoppers that took flight. They were having a feast. I've never seen that on a national parks bird. And I just saw the magic unfold. And the fire moved, all the circles of fire came towards each other, and they moved off into country. We jumped into our four-wheel drives and went back to camp. In my mind, I'm going, where's that going to go? And there was no worry or fear about it. And I still questioned it at night, thinking, why is that fire still going? Went to bed that night into our camp, got up the next morning, my tent was saturated with dew. I mean, literally saturated. Not rainfall, just dew. And that fire, when we drove past that same spot, was not a puff of smoke to be seen. And they knew that. That's why they didn't worry. And that's what I'm talking about, the level of knowledge and things associated with fire. Anyway, I returned home from Cape York with great enthusiasm, a little bit of knowledge and understanding. And I was asking myself, how could we take that knowledge, because we were encouraged not to take it, we were given that knowledge to take it back to where we came from, to share it. And that's exactly what I tried to get on doing. Of course, I spoke to my colleagues in national parks, my bosses, and to be honest, they were happy that I had a wonderful week up in Cape York, and probably a little bit envious. But they said, then Cape York is nothing like the Blue Mountains. That's Savannah grassland you were dealing with. You're back here in Blue Mountains now, so basically wake up and get real. And I thought, no, why are you saying that? You didn't listen to, you weren't there to hear that old man, what he was saying. And what they were saying about systems, and what they were saying about knowing your country and burning your country at the right time for the right system. And anyway, I was just brushed. And so within my role, I tried to do what I could to start to get it on the table for discussion. And I sort of stepped outside of my role and came up with this entity called Blue Mountains Fire Sticks. And it was just meant to be just a community initiative to gather some Aboriginal people from the Blue Mountains to say, let's start advocating for it or pushing for it, because I was just one voice. So we tried to get on with doing that, but we didn't have much success, to be honest. We were up against it, especially in the Blue Mountains, that has been ravaged by fire time and time again, like many parts of Australia. But the hysteria in the Blue Mountains about round fire, and this idea of letting Aboriginal people go out and do cultural burning, just wasn't going to happen. Our shelters, all the stuff has started to grow into the shelters, all the foliage. No one's there to look after them, see, because Aboriginal people have been dispossessed of country, as we know. You don't need a history lesson, but our sites are being damaged in the meantime. And fire has a big impact on our sites. The exfoliation of sandstone that lifts from the intense heat, it just peels off. We lose our museums, if you want to call them that, our art galleries, our connection, our teachings, our lessons. It is so important. We're losing them, and we've lost God knows how many in these recent last year's fires. So our mission was to go to some known sites. We went out there with an archaeologist, and he took us to the sites that he had recorded, etc., and been working around and near. And we went out there, and so the first image there at the top is us getting on with the work, and the two images at the bottom is a before and after. So that's the sort of thing we're talking about, taking the fuel out of the sandstone cave. All right, now part of cultural burning, just as our old people knew, you have to know your country. You have to know your country to burn it. So part of, because you're on it, you know it, right? So this is going to be a real quick induction in knowing this country. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk the perimeter of our burn area, which is basically the walking track for visiting the engravings, and it's a loop.
think in size about between 1 and 2 hectares, Cassie. So it's not a lot of country, but it's good. And we're not going to burn it all today. The conditions aren't right in terms of it being so wet, but we're going to put some spots down. But before we even put fire on the ground, it's about considering and knowing your country. So when I say knowing your country, when you're walking along, have a good look at it. Look at the trees. And there are people here that know what these trees are. You know, share some of that knowledge if you want. Oh, that's a eucalyptus spit. And look at what else is either, you know, what is or isn't growing there. This country has not seen fire for a long time. There's a mulch layer on top of anything that would like to get its head up and grow. It's combustive heat. Yeah, if you want to swap out, you can. There's plenty of people here. Combustive heat alone will set that spark on fire. Right? The intensity of wildfires, even hazard reductions, it's ridiculous. They'll just explode. So you've got to keep that fuel rate away from it. And I'm not saying do it to every tree in your block, but look at every tree that's near your containment line. Either one, because it's going to start sending spark as it goes up, or two, the fire's going to find an opening and they're going to go up the inside of the tree, and then you've got a problem tree. And then that tree, after we've long gone, is still on fire, falls over into the unburnt, fires away again. Okay? Important consideration. Think about your trees and protect them as much as you can. The other thing all right, our next, that's enough guys, you're right. You're right, well done, good job. Round of applause for our raycoers. All right, now the other things that we consider, just like fireys do, is not only aspect, the heat and the warmth that's on and the direct sunlight that's on this area. What's the wind doing right now? But it's coming from what direction?
It's stilly. It's variable.
Variable? But mainly from there. This morning it was pushing from the north, northwest. That's what it's kind of doing now. But remember, weather's unpredictable. You know, it can just turn around on you at any time. And don't put too much stock into the Bureau of Meteorology, believe me. So think about wind. And also think about slope. Just like contemporary firefighting, we generally light at the top of a hill, not the bottom. Why might that be the case? That's right, because all that fuel's sort of sitting above the flames on that slope, right? So it's more intense. Whereas when you see a fire at the top of a hill, it just sort of, it's actually leaned over and it's doing that. You know what I mean?